Okay, so this hug is important, and not because it's the final moment we get of a show that was 5 seasons of incredible TV. It's one of Community's best moments because it's the perfect end to one of the most in-depth and interesting character relationships that I've ever seen on a TV show. And no, I'm not talking about Troy and Abed. Instead, I'm talking about a relationship that is a mountain of shared stories, influence on each other, and deep understanding of each other that no other characters on Community seem to have. There are 2 people who Dan Harmon and the Community creators dive deeper into than any of the others. These people are Jeff and Abed, and the way their relationship goes on to be written is maybe the most interesting character relationship writing you will ever see. Here's why. From a faraway perspective, it looks like these characters are in no way similar, but I would like to argue that they're 2 sides of the exact same coin. And like all good stories, it starts with the beginning, their upbringing. The writers give them childhood issues like hard relationships with their fathers, bullying in school, and an overall loneliness that they both encountered as wounded and misunderstood children. These things caused them to fall back on something that was stable and predictable, which for them was TV. We learn early on that they were both essentially raised by TV. And what makes looking back on their origins interesting is seeing the way they both choose to cope with the realities of life as they grow up. Jeff learned to cope with his loneliness and hurt by using his innate ability to communicate and understand people to manipulate them to feel the love and connection he longs for. But he only does this on a superficial level and never gets genuinely close with anyone. Over and over again, we see him on the show build this persona of having it all together and being the coolest person in the room, but it's often to protect himself from the fact that he is still incredibly innerly wounded and insecure. Abed, on the other hand, dives even deeper into film and TV to help him with his inability to communicate with others. His imagination is his comfort zone, and the shows and movies he watched as he grew up become the lens that he sees the world through, and they are the foundation of his perception of others and also the way that he relates to them. Unlike Jeff, however, Abed is an incredibly self-secure person. Because of his lack of being able to mask who he actually is in his youth, Abed learns to understand who he is and actually like that person. He just isn't afraid to be himself. Or, as he said it best,
"Bert, I got self-esteem falling out of my butt."
Okay, so that's their backstory. Now we can get to where things get interesting. These 2 meet at Greendale, and we see the foundation of their relationship, and the thing that brings so much depth to it is the value that they bring to each other. The very first character interaction of the show is between Jeff and Abed, and the clever and manipulative side of Jeff quickly learns that Abed can be of great value to him. And as the episode goes on, Abed brings him this value, right? Jeff gets what he wants by using Abed to get him closer to Britta, and admittedly, when I first started watching Community, I quit after watching this episode. I didn't watch it for a few months, because I didn't want to watch a show that had a person like Jeff as the main star. But sometime later, I started watching it again because a friend recommended it, and I'm thankful, and I tell my friends now what I wish I knew then. Jeff continues to receive a value from Abed, but not in the way that we first saw. As these 2 characters begin to interact and form a friendship, they both glean from each other the thing that they're missing that the other one possesses. And so, for Jeff, Abed possesses a self-security and awareness of Jeff's motives that Jeff clearly lacks. Time and time again, we see Abed heavily mold who Jeff becomes in 2 different ways. The first way is the impact of Abed's self-confidence on Jeff. And I think the best example of this is in the season 1 episode, Physical Education. This episode is unique in that it focuses entirely on Jeff and Abed as the only 2 storylines. In this episode, Jeff squares off with the Greendale pool coach over the rules on what clothes he's allowed to wear because he's not willing to put on gym shorts that aren't his style. Meanwhile, the study group pushes Abed to pursue a girl who appears to like him, and they try to shift who he is in the process to make him more likable to her. These 2 stories collide in the end after Abed gets a harsh close to his romantic pursuits. The key moment of this episode is when he reveals to the group that he shifted who he was to make them happy, and he was comfortable doing this because he knew who he really was. This statement hits home for Jeff, and he's stirred by Abed's self-confidence and goes on to play pool in the gym shorts and then eventually naked. While this episode calls for a bit of suspended disbelief on what is normal for a college campus, its final moral is incredibly important to the foundation of their relationship. Abed's self-security has a heavy influence on who Jeff is. Another thing his self-confidence does is it breaks down Jeff's walls. In the show, we see that Jeff is so easily able to manipulate others by attacking their weaknesses and insecurities, and with Abed, he has a hard time doing this, because Abed doesn't have many insecurities. In his relationship with Abed, Jeff loses his position of how he normally associates with people, and that forces him to relax and be himself. This leads him to being open to the incredible amount of personal insight Abed has on Jeff, and then being shaped by it. And Abed is not often derailed by Jeff's actions like most people are, and his awareness of Jeff's motives and inner self in times of Jeff's lowness come to play over and over with Jeff as he's able to guide him back on the right path. We see this in Intro to Recycled Cinema as he acknowledges Jeff's fear of loneliness and helps him see a life of beauty beyond that. In Home Economics, he pushes him back to being an adult. Investigative journalism finds Abed being with Jeff at his lowest and then helping him to see the leader that he is and can be. Over and over again, the show puts Abed right next to Jeff when he's at his lowest moments, and these powerful truths from Abed come in these times to create some of the most critical character developments for Jeff that we see throughout the show's run. Abed is arguably the most important person in Jeff's life for true character development. And I think the reason it's important to start with Abed's impact on Jeff is that it is the thing, I believe, that stirs Jeff's impact on Abed. Abed struggles so much to relate to people and to connect with. Because he was raised on TV and his perception of life is through the lens of what life on TV looks like, Abed often uses TV to relate to the world around him. We see this constantly throughout the show. He refers to people as TV characters, situations as movie plots, and character traits as writing tropes. His defining trait in the show is arguably the way that he relates things to TV. What Jeff does for Abed is that he doesn't neglect or turn away from this trait. He instead fully embraces this lens of seeing things as TV in order to relate to Abed in a way that no one else really can. Because they were both raised on TV, Jeff is able to connect with Abed in a way that actually makes sense to him. We see this played for comedy repeatedly throughout the show.
She's the Ark of the Covenant!
But we also see Jeff use it to help Abed grow. Jeff connects with and then plays along with Abed's bits and fantasies, and then brings them out of those and into the real world. Redditor Steve Kindoff has this brilliant bit of insight. Basically, Abed sees Jeff as what he aspires to be, someone who is raised in pop culture but is sociable and capable of taking the lead. That's what contemporary American poultry and critical film studies are ultimately about. Abed using the pop culture he knows to try and become more like Jeff. Contemporary American poultry shows him wanting to be the leader that Jeff is, and critical film studies as him coveting Jeff's ability to have conversations. We see these episodes use Abed's TV lens to create some of the show's finest homages, but we also see Jeff understanding more than others why Abed looks at things like that. And then he continues to be real with Abed and pushes him to grow. Jeff's TV background and earned kinship with Abed provoke him to help Abed grow and become the man that he ends up being by the end of the show. And so, after 6 years of connection and understanding between these two, the show ends just as it started, with Jeff and Abed. At the airport, Jeff hugs Abed and then looks at him and gives him a second hug. It's a moment of true genuineness that we rarely see from Jeff outside of his relationship with Abed. He's looking at his first friend at Greendale, and ultimately the person who understood him the best. Abed provoked Jeff's growth and maturity that he experienced over these 6 years, and as Jeff looks at him and realizes that, he hugs Abed for the second time, this time from a genuine heart of love and appreciation towards Abed. And from Abed's perspective, this second hug is a reflection of his arc and growth. Just like always, Abed is looking at things through a TV lens, and this scene builds on the goodbye trope that Abed knows really well. The thing that changes this, once again, is Jeff and the second hug. This moment from Jeff cancels the trope that Abed is familiar with, and he starts to lose understanding of what is happening. We see the confusion on his face, and then we see it. We see Abed finally understand. Abed sees Jeff, his real friend, and the person he grew with for 6 years, hugging him, telling him how much he means to him. With the double hug, Jeff once again is the person that enables Abed to go beyond his TV filter and see what his life has actually become. This is a moment of realization for both of them. This hug happens when they both fully see each other's value. This scene is one of my all-time favorite TV moments, and it's a captivating thing to watch.